EDC isn't just what you carry, it's how you carry it. What you carry in the wintertime might leave you exposed, uncomfortable, or even unprepared when it comes to summertime carry. We're going to jump into seasonal EDC carry and the change I can make to make it more comfortable in the summertime. So it should go without saying that in the wintertime, you're going to be wearing a lot more clothing. A lot of people, depending on where you live, especially up north, is going to be wearing a lot more clothing, potentially even parkas, large winter jackets. That's obviously going to aid you in being able to conceal a lot bigger firearm and more stuff in general based on whatever it is you're carrying. Um, Here personally, I'm in the southeast. It's starting to get very hot. We're about to hit like that spring slash summertime. For me personally, I like to swap. I swap between two different firearms that I carry throughout the year, exclusively for EDC at this point. I carry the larger firearm, obviously, in the winter and fall, and then summertime because my attire changes and I start wearing a lot less articles of clothing. I'm more lightweight, have less stuff to be able to conceal a firearm or print a lot easier. I actually swap into a lot smaller firearm. Um, it's a little slimmer. In my opinion, it's still super capable. I'm super confident with what I'm carrying. And I change up the method a little bit on how I carry in the summertime as well to make it more comfortable and in turn make it a lot more reasonable and comfortable. And I'm more willing to carry versus like your comfort. Um, in my opinion, if you get too if the way you carry based on your attire, if the way you're carrying is uncomfortable, you're a lot more likely to not carry. And in turn, you're unprepared, you're not able to defend yourself if the need arose. So with that being said, we're going to take a tabletop look at some of the equipment that I use and some of the different things that I change out for wintertime to summertime and how I make it more comfortable and in turn more likely that I'm going to carry all the time. So let's take a look at it. So on the right side here, you're going to see a Glock 19, a handgun you're all familiar with. On the left, we have the 43X MOS. For me personally, in the fall and winter time, I prefer to carry the Glock 19. Uh, it's got a longer sight radius, a little bit longer barrel. It's got more weight to it. To me, I feel more capable and confident with a Glock 19. It's preferred. However, in the summertime, that reduced weight and footprint of the 43X MOS is a game changer for me personally on being able to securely carry a firearm without it bouncing around when I'm wearing shorts or a t-shirt. It also prints a lot less due to that thinner profile versus the Glock 19. Um, you take that weight savings that you get out of it, and it just is a lot easier to conceal with less clothing for me. With that being said, you can tell that these aren't dramatically different size firearms, but those little those little significant changes are all the difference for me to be able to carry one of these easier than the other when it comes to summertime. With that being said, you're going to look at both of these as I show them on the tabletop here. They're both Glocks. That's intentional. I want all the controls to be the same, even though the grip is a little different due to the size. I want the controls to be the same. I want the lights to be as similar as possible. You can see they're both TLR 7s. One's a sub on the smaller gun and A on the other. And then I also have red dot optics on both that are from the same manufacturer so that I can have as much similarity between these two guns to be able to efficiently go between the two platforms with as much muscle memory from my training carrying over to one to the other as much as possible. And that was very intentional when I actually had the 19 first, but when I decided I wanted something smaller for summer, I intentionally built out that handgun for concealed carry to match the 19 as close as possible so that when I practice my dry firing and my light activation and my aiming down the red dot, I want it to be as similar as possible so that I'm not trying to learn two completely different platforms and the muscle memory carries over. To me, I feel like that's extremely important for your training. Um, to me, it just makes as much sense as possible to not be trying to train your brain to go between two different platforms when in a critical high stress moment, if you had to use something for self-defense, that's not the time to determine that you haven't practiced enough because you just swapped between one or the other platform. To me, that was the most important thing I could do with these firearms, was to mimic each other as much as possible, and you'll see that they do as much as they can, within reason, but So that's just a couple of the reasons why I choose one or the other, depending on what time of year it is. Let's look at some other stuff. So right here, I'm showing you the belt that I always use. It's the Blue Alpha EDC belt. I love this belt. A lot of everyday carry belts that people use have a Cobra buckle on them. I actually have the Blue Alpha Gear Cobra buckle version of this belt, and I hated it because it was always in the way. Um, Change out to this EDC belt that's got this different connector, or I'm sorry, buckle on it here, and it makes it way easier to implement this into your everyday carry. Makes it way easier to get on and off, to use the bathroom, to change clothes, whatever the case may be. This to me is the absolute best belt. It's super firm. You're gonna see here as I mount this on here that it provides a super solid platform for this holster to retain to. It's not going anywhere, and when you put this on your body, it's super secure. I feel comfortable with it. It's to me, it's enough. That's my opinion. Um, I'm sure there's some other super rugged belt out there, but to me, this balances the retention, stiffness, and comfortability that I'm looking for. So I prefer this belt. Um, and to me, that belt buckle is all the difference. Um, don't make the mistake of using an off the rack like Walmart or just normal belt. It allows the holster, regardless of how good the quality of the holster is, it'll allow it to twist, turn, dig into you, and it'll make it uncomfortable, and you'll not want to carry because of it. Obviously, you want a good holster. Tier 1 Concealed and T-Rex Arms, which I use, are both quality holsters. But if you combine those with a bad belt, it ruins the experience and it'll discourage you from wanting to carry it. You want a belt from a reputable manufacturer. This is literally what secures the holster and the gun to you, which is a safety issue. You do not want this thing coming undone unintentionally. That is a problem. Here's both the holsters. They're both made of Kydex. This first one on the 43X is a Tier 1 Concealed. On the other firearm is a T-Rex Arms holster. Both of these companies are extremely well regarded and respected in the firearms industry space for holsters. I'm not going to try to explain too much about these and what makes a quality holster. I'll let them do that. You can look up their stuff on their website. But I can't emphasize enough like how important a quality holster is that safely protects the firearm when you're carrying it. You have got to make sure you spend money on a good holster. Two pieces of equipment that I went over today that are often overlooked, but in my opinion are very important pieces of equipment that you can implement into your system and should, are a holster, a high quality holster from a reputable company that safely and adequately protects your firearm is huge. And same goes for a gun belt. A purpose built gun belt that is meant to support the weight of carrying a firearm from a reputable company that makes a high quality product are two pieces of equipment that are going to be a game changer for your EDC carry. Not only does it make you safer, but it also makes you a lot more comfortable. The gun belt is so often overlooked, and I can't emphasize enough how much more comfortable that makes it. Guys, keep in mind, I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who has a high level of interest in firearms, and I have for a long time at different levels of interest throughout life, but it's always been a part of who I am and what I'm interested in. With that being said, I'm not a firearms instructor. I'm not prior military or anything like that. I'm just a dude who learned by trial and error. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying my methods are perfect. I'm not saying they're correct, but they do work for me. So I'm just sharing my experiences. With that being said, I hope you found this video helpful and entertaining. Unbound Citizen out. One other piece of information for you real quick. I do have an option to carry off body in a sling bag. I'm not going to go over it in this video simply because it's going to make the video way too long to go in depth on a sling bag in addition to this already. If you are interested in that, then we will go over that in another video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this video. If you want to see anything with a sling bag, or if you don't care at all, leave me a comment, drop me a subscribe. It goes a long way to let me know these videos are entertaining and helpful. Thanks so much. Unbound Citizen out.